most of my to make sure right information is being shared from the institution. So it of things to do that involve investigation, visiting public offices to find out right information and all this. So currently, I'm a freelancer. I don't work in any permanent institution, but I'm a freelancer. I work anywhere where I find job, and I do my work, and I also share with any institution that is connected with me. So freelancer, and I love my job.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Angelina, for that round of proper introduction. So, can you just give us insights like how this background of yours much relates to fact checking and investigative journalism?
Yeah, my background matches with the fact checking. As an investigative journalist, of course, you have to investigate some information. For you to provide, information, you have to investigate properly. And in 211 check or fact checking training that I went through for the last 3 months, it has really helped also my career in a way that I couldn't do investigation without also fact checking. So it is much very relevant to my career, and I also utilized the information the information and the docs. I've been reading through the entire training session, although there were a lot of difficulties, but it has given me a way that my work could be easier. Giving an example, in South Sudan, the challenges we face as investigative journalists or any other journalist, first of all, having access to the public information is very difficult. Find information in the website, in the use of social media, any other media platform. It could be a rumor that is close to the reality, and it is a concern of public interest. So, because I attended the fact checking training, it has also helped me. Before, I didn't know really how possible I can be able to also fact check the information. And even if I don't get the right documents or confirmation from the public offices, but I didn't know there was also alternative ways to do it, to do the fact checking. So this training has really contributed a lot into my work, and so far so good. I've seen a lot of improvement in my work as an investigative journalist or a freelance. I've been giving my fact checking. So it is really contributing a lot into my work and make my easier. It seems they don't have that knowledge. They don't have the knowledge really the importance of how Sudan or journalists are doing their job as investigative journalists. So there is a need. I've already figured out there is a need to also bring them into the platform and tell them, look, this is what we mean to be fact checkers, and we need your high cooperation in order for us to. So this could be the ways in how we can be able to solve challenges we face as fact checkers and also investigative journalists. But this two fact checkers really contributed a lot into my.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for those insights. And then, you know, we have students earlier on in the introduction. So probably we can say these are newbies, so probably they don't understand these concepts properly. So in layman, in plain English, how would you define fact-checking and investigative journalism? And then can you just differentiate so that like somebody who is a student can understand in plain English, what is fact-checking, what is investigative journalism, what is the difference, or what are the similarities?
Okay. In brief, fact checker or fact checking is you want to find out whether the information you have in hand is true or not using the tools. These are fact checking tools. Okay, there are some tools that are to be used. For example, if you get an information on social media, on Facebook, saying that Angelina is a mother of 8 kids, for example, and maybe I don't have that. I don't have that number of kids. You will see there will be some arguments. Those that knows me, and for you that you heard about Angelina, but you really want to know more about me, you'll be able to use a tool that is used for fact checking, and it will be able to give you the tools. We have a variety of the tools that can be able to give you exactly whether the information is true or not. And being an investigative journalist, you have the information, yes, in hand. It could be an information that has taken years or the recent, but it is not very clear. You see, for example, let me give you an example. Maybe there could be like, there is a murder, a mother of 5 children killed her 3 children. It could be a story of 3 years back, but the source of the information, you have the source of the information, but the story is not balanced, and you need really to investigate why. Investigate is you can go to the court of justice to confirm whether this information is true and what are the evidence behind this. So investigative is having evidence at hand. Yeah.
Okay, so sort of you have something, you have some sort of tip, and then you want to look deep into it, right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much. So if you just join us, this is the webinar on the challenges to fact-checking investigative journalism in South Sudan. All of us know that the media landscape in South Sudan is still very small and growing, and then there are a lot of aspects of journalism that are still also growing, and then it is our responsibility as practicing journalists, as well as maybe students who are, of course, going to be groomed into proper journalism to be able to be aware of most of these issues. Of course, we all know that South Sudan still remains the youngest country in the world, and it has been plagued by conflict and political instability since independence in 2011. And as a result, factual and reliable information has become increasingly difficult for South Sudan citizens, journalists, and fact checkers who attempt to verify the accuracy of news and information circulated in the media. So in this webinar, practitioners of investigative journalism and fact checking discuss the challenges they face in gathering and verifying information amidst a lot of risks, lack of sometimes financial resources to undertake their work, and also the limited even human resource in South Sudan. These people who will be discussing will also provide us insights into the techniques and methods to overcome some of these challenges as you carry your work as a fact checker or as an investigative journalist, and also highlight the importance of credible journalism and fact checking in ensuring accurate information and promoting good governance in this country. I don't know if Emmanuel has joined us. Kay, can you confirm if you are already inside? K. Emmanuel?
Yes, Bida, can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
hello,
yes,
Bida.
we can
Can
hear
you hear
you.
me and the rest of the
We can
members?
hear you. We can hear you. Can you turn on your
Oh,
video, please?
okay. Okay. I have some bit of technical issues, but I'm trying to work on it. I hope I will fix it in the course of the session.
Okay. We can hear you clearly. So,
is my video okay?
yeah, I think
Can
your internet is still showing black, but I guess this is just an internet glitch, and it should be fixed soon.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
it
but
is
you
raining
can.
here, so I guess it should be the cause for
Okay. So there's no problem with that. You can just turn off your video and then just contribute in the discussion. So just bring us to speed. Just tell us about yourself and then the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bida, for this invitation and all the participants who have accepted to take part in this call, and my colleague Angelina also for accepting the call to participate in this discussion. I am called K. Emmanuel Doko. I'm a multimedia journalist and journalist also who have undertaken series of training in investigative journalism. Some of my bits, I do reporting basically on climate, wildlife biodiversity, human trafficking, energy and mineral, gender-based violence, sports are some of my bits that I do reporting in. And also, in the past 2 years and a half, I've been engaged in doing investigative journalism, though not in South Sudan. And in this media industry, I started in 2014. Until that, I'm still in the business of reporting. And 2022, I incorporated fact checking into my journalism career. I started fact checking process with the PESA Check Africa. That was when COVID, and I applied for a fellowship with the PESA Check, and happened to be one of the fellow who participated in that training in 2022. Apart from attending this fellowship with the PESA Check, I've also engaged in a series of online Africa and many other fact-checking organizations in the continent. Yes, that's briefly about my biography. So I will be sharing my thoughts in this webinar, just like another fact-checker who is also trying to learn from colleagues who are in this forum. Thank you. Over to you, Bida. Are you getting me?
Yes, I can hear you. So,
okay.
I was asking you about the difference. So, how would you say in layman language what fact checking is and what investigative journalism is?
Okay, fact checking. What I could say is looking for the right information. Okay, looking for the right information to verify content that is misleading to the public, content that is misinforming the public, and you are looking to correct that gap. Okay, you're looking to correct that. While investigation is all about looking at a prima facie. Prima facie in terms of looking exactly, this is what something has happened, somebody has done it, and he has done it for this purpose. When at a certain point, you will see there must be prima facie between fact checking and journalism. There should be evidence that this thing is wrong or this thing has happened. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Angelina, let me get back to you. How would you describe the investigative journalism landscape in South Sudan? Have you seen some examples of investigative stories done by South Sudanese journalists. And maybe can you cite an example of such a story? And what did you find very interesting about that investigation?
Thank you so much for giving me back the opportunity. Yeah, looking into being an investigative journalist in South Sudan is really one of risking giving examples that we are more familiar with, especially in South Sudan. If we look at the conflict of 2016, where we have the likes of Donglua, who went missing, you see, and I know one of the journalists that was really trying. We were behind because he was ahead of us. We were behind the investigation. By that time, I was working for ICRC, actually, as communication officer. During that time, the when the issue, when the problem erected, that those of Donglua went missing, and there are also rumors that they were just detained, and they were just in the cell and all this. I was behind investigating it, but from an international organization side. So we were having these human rights investigative journalists. They were really trying to follow up really where they are. We had one of the colleague that also, but all of a sudden he's no more. And sometimes we feel bad, as journalists, losing one of your colleague while trying to find out and feed the public with the right information. So during that, as an example, during that conflict, so it reached, there was conflict of interest. Journalists want to find out really whether these people are still alive, or where they are, even where they are detained. The reason, okay, the reason was also rumors. It was not that confirmed, because even the investigator that wanted to really find out the reason why they were deported, or the reason why they were captured and all this, it was a very, very huge topic to be investigated, and some of the journalists lost their jobs. I mean, they lost their life while trying to find out really where these people are. And up to today, it is just concluded that they are no more, and where they were killed, no one knows. You see? So finding information from such public offices, finding information and investigating really why this happened and what's the reason behind, it's very risky. And I can assure you 90% of journalists in South Sudan are quitting the job of being an investigative journalist, because the chances of you losing life is very high. So these are examples. One of the example I can give. For me, there was I was trying to do an investigative story, but I wanted to make it as a documentary. You see?
Over to you, Kenwells, how would you?
Pardon?
Yes. So, are you speaking again?
I could hear someone is trying to ask question, or it was connection problem.
Yeah, it could be a problem because you had ended your answer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and then I was moving back to Kay to just give us, like, somebody who is following the media in South Sudan, how would you describe the state of investigative journalism? Do you feel something is being done? Are there few investigative stories being published every now and then? And then can you cite any examples of some of these investigative stories that you probably have come across published by a media entity in this country?
Okay, looking into that, I wouldn't say that the state of investigative journalism is good.
Question is for Kay.
Is it to me or to Kay?
To K. Man, I don't know if he's getting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
actually,
getting you, Peter.
yes, over to you.
All right. Thank you for this question. First of all, for journalists to dive into investigative journalism, we must have, first of all, uh, eminent whistleblowers in the country, people who are ready to tip the media of something happening weird in the system. But then you ask yourself, in the corporate organizations, in the government institutions, are there people who are willing to liaise with the journalists, giving them tips? Let me just give you an example of what has been happening. One livelihood program in South Sudan has been accused of using dubious means of recruiting staff there in WFP to give you information. How willing are they to provide you? How willing are they to work with you? So to come back to your question, on daily basis, really, I don't see investigative journalism practice in South Sudan media. The journalists are there, but one, they fear to do this bit of reporting because of their life. The individuals are there, they know, they have the tips that this is happening wrong in a government, this is happening wrong in a corporate institution, but they also fear to give you the information because of their safety. So it is a circle of fear. Even the organizations that are the media themselves, they fear to publish this story for being shut down. Because if it's shut down, their revenue is closed, their staffs are laid off. So the journalists fear, the public fear, the media organization fear to run these stories. So on daily basis, I could say the reporting of investigative journalism part in South Sudan is really very low, that the public have a lot of fear over the government should they come out. But then now also this bring you to the point of the journalists themselves. If you are tipped with the information, it is your prerogative as a journalist to protect your source, to protect your source. If you cannot protect yourself and then source, and then it becomes very difficult for somebody to trust you with the information. That's why when an investigation is started with a foreign journalist, he knows how to work around with this information. He knows how to maneuver every information that he picks from a source, and at the end of the source, it will yield successful results. Let me give you an example. The investigation done by John Anlamo about the let me just say the sanitary report. Nobody believed that this was done in South Sudan. And the journalists that we have right now in South Sudan who are practicing investigative journalism, they are now behind the scene. Yes, they're there, as Angelina said, but now they're behind the scene. They can tip the information now to a foreign media house, and the foreign media house will come and investigate it. That's why all the sanitary reports that come from foreign countries or foreign media are tipped from South Sudan. Yes, over to you.
Okay, great. So I picked very interesting points. One of it is whistleblowers. So for investigative journalism to prosper, there should be whistleblowers who can sort of tip journalists with information. But of course, I have seen a couple of these on social media. Like I have seen pages giving out leaked documents, and also recently I saw um, actually some sort of investigative report about a shaga by the former CEO of Kush Bank and stuff. So I think these are starting points for investigative journalists, and also sometimes even press releases. These press releases that you see around can be starting points for proper investigative journalism. And also you talked about a lot of threats, especially maybe a media house can be shut down because, like, there's a lot of censorship. I am told even in print where newspapers are printed, there are some security officials who are deployed, and they actually have to check every newspaper because before it is printed. So if some content can actually be removed, and sometimes newspapers are printed with blank pages. So these are quite interesting insights from perspective of what media entities and journalists go through in South Sudan. And thank you so much, Kay, for sharing. Lovely. And now let's get back to you and to you as investigative journalist. So how do you think like the media organizations in South Sudan can be like you as a fact checker, or you as somebody who is aspiring to be investigative journalist? How do you think your work can be supported? How better can you be supported to do your work very well, Angelina? What sort of support do you think you should be accorded?
Okay, for me as an investigative journalist or a fact checker in South Sudan, with all the challenges that we've encountered and still we are encountering, the only support I would like media institutions to really help is to do a vast sensitization on the importance of fact checking, and also the importance of public opinion when it comes to, when it comes to investigative stories or articles. So media need to do a lot to, to reach out to the grassroots levels, to before reaching to the grassroots, because grassroots level actually they don't have much issues. They are the people that they are always behind the news and they need to know. But for media organizations or institutions, for example, Media Authority in South Sudan, where we have media acts that are to support and help, you know, media practitioners, journalists across South Sudan, they have to really reinforce their strategies in engaging with the public offices, where majority of the information or the most of the information to be investigated are being denied. I'm seeing, as I said earlier, that there is a lack of, you know, of information. There is lack of really getting right information, and the reason why it is important to have fact checkers and to have investigative journalists in the country. So there is a need, to do more of training to engage them. Let's engage the public offices. Media institution has to take that as a step improve on the access to information by the investigative journalist or any media practitioner who is a professional journalist. They need to take a step forward to engage more intense the public offices in order for us to have at least a better access to the public information, because the information they're hiding in their offices, and when you try to be like more focused and you really need it, you show that I need to feed my community with the information. As it is mentioned earlier by my colleague, most likely your life will be in danger, but let them understand. Once they are engaged thoroughly, they understand the importance of having media, because media is one of the main platform that educates and inform people. And information or communication is the first aid, because if we cannot communicate, if we cannot inform, even now we could not have this webinar. So I would urge all the media institution, whether private, whether funded institution, and even the South Sudan Media Authority themselves, they need really to focus and to make sure, because they are the very close link to those offices that intend to make our work so complicated and hard to reach to the right information. Let them find, inshallah, this year, if they have the budget, I would advise that let them begin the first step, engaging such offices and training them regularly, so that they will be able to understand the importance of having fact checkers and investigative journalists, rather than taking us as bias, as security agents. You see, they should really need to have primary knowledge and accept it, that it is, yes, it is important for these particular practitioners to have access to this information. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Guy. I think, Guy, let me hope you can now see clearly. And thank you, Angelina, for sharing your insights. I got very important points from your discussion, and you are emphasizing on the point of media support organizations. They should be able to engage relevant stakeholders in the information ecosystem, including the media authority, including media support organizations like probably AMDIs, to come in and see how they can even, because we talk about media development and promoting fact checking and investigative journalism is part of media development, which is likely to improve access to credible and accurate information for a lot of South Sudanese citizens. So, Guy, like what sort of support have you so far received as a fact checker? What sort of support is media organizations like 211 Check giving you in your work as a fact checker? And also,
Well,
what role, or what more do you think? What more do you think? What support do you think you should be accorded for you to be able to do your work properly in a country like South Sudan?
well, thank you and good morning to everyone. I really appreciate the input from my colleagues, Angelina and Arcangelo. They have given very good insight into the overall media overview of South Sudan, practice of journalism. Well, 211 has been more into empowering the mainstream media through these trainings. And in fact, these trainings are in line with what journalism, with the practice of journalism and how information should be accurately, you know, researched and then published. So one thing I will really say about the support, I think 211 Check has done more. And in terms of empowering media practitioners, because I'm also a beneficiary of 211 Check, in which I went through the training as a media practitioner. And then through the training, I've been able to practice the skills in fact checking and in the mainstream media. So what I will say, 211 Check should continue to empower to engage with the media houses in South Sudan, especially the mainstream. Because right now, if you look at most media stations in South Sudan, they lack some, what I do call fact-checking desk, which is really important in verifying any information that goes out or that is published. It is important because if such desk exists in any media station, there will be information will be filtered, what is true and what is false, and then that prevents media station or reputable media station coming on their audiences that we apologize because this information was not accurate, this one was not good, and we tried to pull it down. So the fact-checking desk placed in such media stations will be gatekeeping any information that is published. It will also check the facts in such news articles if the facts are true or not. Because sometimes as journalists, we can be under pressure and we write information thinking it is the right one. We commit that misinformation. But if there is that desk, within, such information will be verified and it will prevent a harm from happening. And another support which I will also say is that, and not only from 211 Check, is to maybe other organizations, media organizations, they need to empower journalists through motivation. I'm aware that journalists are less paid in South Sudan, and that demotivate them, like it demoralizes their commitment, because you cannot commit yourself to something you are getting less paid. Like you don't have that commitment even to risk.
And you probably going to lose your life.
Yes. So you are not getting anything and you are losing your life. So there is always that thing that was you getting committed, even if you are not losing your life, but it is better you committing yourself because you are also making something to improve your social life as well. So I need that support from the media organizations to support financially the journalists because they are paid less. I'm telling you, and that is even a big drawback to practice of journalism in South Sudan. And
Okay, so just to pause there a bit, what would you say is the average pay for a journalist in South Sudan? How much, like, the average journalist gets how much per month?
let me say is less than $100.
That is less than 100,000 SSP per month.
Yes,
Okay.
less than 100,000 per month.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
just give me an addition to the support that we would like as fact checkers as well from 211 Check. Having trained or giving capacity to journalists and who are now fact checkers or any media practitioner, you should also create this link of, for those that you already train as fact checkers, they have the information, they have the tools in hand for them to continuously feel that pride, at least if there is that connection and partnership with other media organization or public media institution, there should be that swapping also of the staff. Maybe having one of the fact checker that is well trained with the, can go into another media station or media organization, at least can be stationed there with a little motivation that he just mentioned. For example, now if you take me to maybe to Parium administrative area. So majority there are media practitioners, or they are not that media professional, but they practice media, you see? And maybe none of them has been trained on how to fact check things. And then if you happen to maybe take one of your trained fact checkers to go also and tell them the importance of debunking the misinformation and all this, it is also another way of transforming them slowly and slowly. And I trust change would come because it will be new. They will always be eager, and some of them that has been just employed practicing to become maybe they are not, it's not their profession, but they're just employed to be presenters or broadcast. They read news every time and all this. It's not their profession, but it is the situation that is forcing them. You never know, that particular person has served for 3 years in that job, but it's just because he's getting something little to feed his family or to get the bread. But the more he gets more purified information and tools to use while practicing this, they might take it serious, and it will also go into let's say to the commissioners. It will also be another way of engaging other local authorities at their level, because they are the right people there. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if I get you clearly, both you and Guy. So the idea here is to provide capital infusion to existing mainstream media, and then we get some of the trained fact checkers to deploy in these media entities, and then these trained fact checkers or investigative journalists will mentor. So what happens here is this. So the media entity will need to appoint a representative who will be dedicated to that fact-checking desk. And then now there will be a capital infusion. That is money that will be provided to the media house. One, to cater for that dedicated person that they will assign, and then also to cater for you as a trained person who will be mentoring that media entity. And as a result, they will be able to publish fact-checking content. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay, brilliant. That is really good. And I like. Yes, please.
Can I come in briefly?
Yes, I was actually coming to you, so you can come in and then I'll ask you your question.
All right. The debate is getting interesting. I just like the point Angelina and Guy is building on as far as the motivation for journalists is concerned. Let me just tell you this. Investigative journalism is very, very, very expensive. For you to come out with a full investigation, it may require over $2,000. And at the end of the day, where does the pride go for this investigation? It is the media house that publishes this story that earns the pride. But who is deploying the resources? One, it is my life as a journalist. Two, it is my personal resources or money as a reporter attached to this media house. So what am I trying to say here? Media houses should deliberately allocate a budget that is purposely for investigation. If media houses not do that, the investigative part of journalism will continue to shrink. It will not flourish. Two, we need organizations that can give grants for reporting. A lot of stories in South Sudan need investigation. But as Angelina and my colleague said, the resource is not there. The safety part of awareing the journalists is not there. How do I dive into investigation without assessing the rest of these particular stories? I need guidance. If this is the path I have taken, am I going to come safe? Yes, these are things that need to be given to journalists. And then the issue of deploying fact checkers in the media. Okay, yeah. Continue with the question.
No, you proceed and then I'll ask you.
Okay, so the question of deploying staff to media houses. Perhaps maybe when you are coming to ask your question, you will also give us a response. What monitoring mechanism as 211 check do you have for fact checkers that you have trained? Are you following up this stuff or not? What are they doing when they have gone back to ABA? What are they doing when they've gone back to Pariang? What are they doing when they've gone back to Europe? Like you're investing resources, but what is the output after investing these resources? Meaning there should be work done. So if you don't follow up these reporters, you may have over 10,000 fact checkers trained. What is the impact in the misinformation and disinformation fight? So if this fight, if this monitoring mechanism is not developed by organizations like you, and then again, you will not see impact in fight of disinformation. So there should be a deliberate follow-up of these individuals, and also there should be commitment for those who have been trained. I thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I get it. So probably, you see, this is one question that we have been asking ourselves. Like, we train a lot of people, and even fellowships. We award fellowships to a lot of journalists from time to time. But then, what are they doing? So this is the biggest question, right? So we realize that in most cases, journalists or like some of these content creators, they join some of these programs because of the benefits that come with some of these programs. Because sometimes when we do a fellowship, you get a stipend, you get paid. Or when you do a training, you have something like maybe airtime reimbursement or data reimbursement or training or something like that. So some people don't actually come because they want to get the skills and later on apply, but they come because of the benefits that are tagged along with these things. So then that is why you see we have introduced this fact check for a pay. So the idea is to see how many of those that we have trained are able to put the skills into what? Into work. So that is why you see us introducing this. And then another mechanism that we are going to use now is what Angelina and Guy were talking about. So what happens is this. We will, like I said, we already have trained fact checkers, and then now we want this mainstream media to get to work. So what do we do? So what we can do here is this. We can get these trained fact checkers, and then we put out a call for media entities that are interested in establishing fact-checking desks. So what this media, after these media entities apply, and then we provide them with capital infusion, because we talk about the issue of the money. They do not have the money to be able to run this desk. So let's say we'll give them a period of 6 months. So in this period of 6 months, they will be mentored. One, on sustainability mechanisms. How can they sustain their own fact-checking desk, right? And then we will give them support. Let's say support for 6 months. So in these 6 months, we will pay both the person that the media house will dedicate, and then the fact checker who will be mentoring the media house. And then after that, we'll also see that they are able to create content. So this will be the monitoring and evaluation mechanism. What content are they producing? What is the frequency of producing this content? And then after we leave them, after 6 months, are they able to sustain that desk, or the desk dies out? You see that? So these are some of the things that we should be able to look at, because from people that we have trained, I think the only person who was able to establish a fact-checking desk was one guy at City Review, but then he later left the City Review and the fact-checking desk left with him. So he doesn't have a fact-checking desk up to now. So it's crazy how these things work. Now, back to the question. Okay, I hope I have answered you.
Perfect. You have answered me.
Okay, good. And then now back to you again. So you do fact-checking, you do investigative journalism, and then you also mentioned that investigative journalism has potential risk, and it can be life-threatening. So how do you balance the need? How do you balance that there's really a need for fact-checking and investigative journalism, and then also there are potential risks, and sometimes you can lose your life. So how do you strike the balance?
Okay, thank you for your question. I have colleagues whom I work with. There was an investigative story I started outside South Sudan. As I said at the beginning, there should be whistleblowers. So when when that person tipped me with the information, he had whatever materials at his disposal. He shared with me. When I started investigation, now getting to the deeper part of the story, I started receiving threats. One time I was away and the person thought I was home. He came and attacked my home. So thank God there was nobody, and he destroyed whatever things I have in my house. That one gave me a courage instead to do the story more. I backslide, stayed for more than 6 months, kept quiet with the story, and to make the public forget about the story. After the duration of 6 months, I bounced back with my investigation. So when the guys also realized this guy is back, they started issuing some threats like that. Said, no, this is too much now. I had to consult one of my colleagues and shared my story with him. Said, now, can you stay away with the story? Can you stay away from the investigation? I asked him, what is the pride that I will get if I stay away from this story? Because at the end of the day, it is my story. And I gave him the story. And I can tell you, the story worked out well after 1 year. And the people who are behind that story, it's actually a scandal in construction overhead. The money, those who are behind the scandal were arrested, and I can confirm 2 are in prison. The investigation is that when I find a lot of risk, I give out the story to somebody to finish. Continues like that. I have to break the stories into bits, and it takes time for me to finish it. It will take time for me to finish it. Sometime by the time when you're finishing, something might have happened. Maybe the accused might have lost their job, or their contract might have been terminated, but that does not prevent you from doing your work. So that's how I usually finish up my investigative stories. So far, I have produced 2 in the period of 3 years.
Good. So the point here is 2 things. One, collaboration. So sometimes you have to bring colleagues on board and see how they can help you accomplish the investigation. And another thing is take your time. Take your time as you do this. And another thing, I want to answer your question previously, the question of grants. I share a lot of grant opportunities, especially for investigative journalists. For most of you who are part of the 211 Check community WhatsApp group and Telegram community, I share a lot of these call for grants. So I am not very sure how many people apply because we don't have a mechanism for that. But then I also see that probably some people might face challenges with writing proposals, even drafting budgets, because for you to get these grants, you should have basic knowledge of how to draft good proposals, and then you should have knowledge of how to draft budgets. Even because some of these things can go for the $2,000 you are talking about, or even $5,000. But how can you put forward a convincing proposal so that your pitch for an investigative report can be accepted? So in this call, I would encourage each and everyone here to watch. There are a lot of YouTube videos, there are a lot of articles, even you will find a lot of sample proposals online. These days, we have what we call the AI chatbots, like the ChatGPT, the Google Bot, or even the Bing chat. So you can play around with them, give them your ideas, and they can give you heads up on how to write proper proposals. So that is one thing that I would encourage with each and everyone here. You need to work on your skills on how to write proper concept notes, and then also you should work on your skills on how to draft very good budgets. And then when you see this call for applications, and you really have the idea, you can always pitch, because in most cases there are very few South Sudanese applying for these opportunities. So if you apply, you realize that you are only among few South Sudanese who apply. In most cases, chances of you getting selected are very high if your proposal is very um, if your proposal is very convincing. Um, yes, there's complaint of echo.
Yeah.
I don't know who is it from. There's no other person whose microphone is.
Could it be my side or I sound clear?
You try to turn on your mic. Turn on your mic.
I turn off?
Yeah, your microphone. Okay. I think it's your side. Yeah. There's something
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh,
There's
okay.
something
Yeah.
You check
Let
if
me
there's
close
any
up
sound there.
something.
Okay.
I'm closing in something.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Yeah. So thank you so much for that heads up. I think the sound issue has been fixed. Very interesting conversations. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Later on, we'll have your questions answered. You can direct your question to any of the specific speakers, either Angelina or Guy or K. Emmanuel. Yes. So now we come to Guy. Social media. You are very active on social media: Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp. How does it affect your fact checking work, or how do you think it affects investigative journalism? It can be positive or negative.
Well, indeed, social media has played both negative and positive effects on fact checking or investigative journalism. On the positive part is that social media gives investigators or journalists hints on trending topics in the country or maybe all over the world. So, as an investigative journalist, you need to pick such tips. You take them and try to see, are they worth investigating or not? Because most stories or most investigative stories start as rumors. It can start as like just a small tip from an organization or maybe from maybe government institution. And then if you want to dig deeper as a journalist, you need to employ some other techniques in trying to get that information and enlarge it and make it, you dig deeper and get some tangible information around such happening. On the negative part is that it makes it impossible for investigative journalists to get real information because the information ecosystem is flooded with false information. So, and to me, that's why it is important for, for journalists to be trained in fact checking, because you need to know what is fact checkable or what is true or what is what is not true. Through that, you will be able to filter any information on the social media platforms and and work toward getting the accurate information from that. So in that, it makes it difficult for investigative journalists to get accurate information because there's a lot of misinformation available on social media, on almost, let's say, on all social media platforms. Yeah.
Okay, so you would say that there are both negative and positive aspects, of course, that that these things affect the way we work. So just a piece of announcement, there's the attendance register dropped in the chat box. So please do register your attendance for this session for the purposes of the data reimbursement. For those of you who said yes to data reimbursement, so that we don't receive complaints later on. And then please, after registering, don't drop from the call. Yes, so let's get to Kay. What are your thoughts? Social media, fact checking, investigative journalism. What are the negatives and positives?
All right, thank you. As my colleague Guy said, social media has both the positive and the negative impact of fact checking and the investigation. Of course, these are platforms where you can get your story ideas from and you start to investigate. It's areas where these are places where you can get your fact check and start to deploy the necessary tools to fact check the information. And all the social media pages are helpful in the investigation and fact checking. When you talk about the TikTok, you talk about the Facebook, the Twitter, these are all offer you the platforms, the pages. But one ought to be very careful also sometimes. There are other social media pages that are like that have the blue tick and people say to give you fake information. I can give you an example here. Like in Uganda, there's this Twitter handle written as MK Project. It has the blue tick, but the information it has a lot of misinformation in it. I can also give an example of one Twitter handle in Tanzania, in the names of Tanzanian TV. They have the blue tick, but information that they have there are both misleading. And then, like also pages, there are some pages that you found created by South Sudanese, so Facebook. You can see from time to time they carry different names. For example, they have names different today. After 3 months, the name have changed. So this trend of changing in naming pages, you be very careful with it. And as fact checker, how do you deal with such kind of pages? You need to follow them for you to get misinformation, for you to get information that is derailing the public. As for investigation, as you said, Beda, at the beginning, of course, press releases, whistleblowers, and other pages that are of even in people who like sharing information that is worth investigative. That's where you can build from. But you need to be very conscious when you get information from such platform. As we say, fact check them thoroughly. Because if a fact checker and you produce a fact check, which later you are fact checked and you are found to be also spreading misinformation, then I don't know what kind of fact checker you are. If you're an investigative journalist, you cannot dig to get the facts right, then that is not the right investigation that you are doing. dig, investigate to the last bit. Put your facts all right when it's also when you got the whether you get the information from social media or you got it from a whistleblower. Yes, that's the best I can add on what Gaia said, Bida.
Thank you so much. Very important point, and that is the point of blue tick. You know, there is a lot of changes in the policies of Meta, that is formerly Facebook, and then X, which is formerly Twitter. So now verification is about money. So those days, the verification used to be on credibility of a particular entity, but now verification is with money. As long as you pay and you verify your identity, then you get a check mark. So we do not now say when a social media account has a blue tick, then it is authentic. And then also he talked about being very, very cautious about some of the practices of some of these social media accounts, as in terms of regular changing of accounts. So if it is on Facebook, for example, you can go to the about section of a Facebook page, and then go to what they call transparency section. You will be able to see how many times a Facebook page has been changed, a Facebook page name has been changed when it was created. So usually when you see that a Facebook page is newly created and then it is running very dubious kind of app or putting a content that is suspicious, or when the page has changed names a lot of times, you'd be very, very cautious about such kind of social media accounts. And now, let us talk about ethics. Let us talk about ethics. So what are some of the ethical considerations and what are some of the ethical challenges that come with fact-checking and investigative journalism? This is a question to all of you. One person can go and then the other person can go. Guy, Angelina, and Kay, who would like to go first? Ethics. What are the ethical considerations in fact-checking and investigative journalism? And then what are some of the ethical challenges that come with fact-checking and investigative journalism? Who would like to go first?
Let me go.
Angelina, your mic is off. Angelina, your mic.
Okay, I was saying ladies first.
Yes, ladies first.
Yeah, one of the ethical considerations that need to be considered by all the fact checkers is that you have to be neutral, you know, and you also have to show them you are independent fact checker, because you have the tools in your hands, and what you are doing is of a benefit to, you know, to the public, and you want to do the right thing and feed people with the right information instead of misleading them. So for you to do that, you have to be neutral, independent, and, you know, don't take side. You have to be also impartial. That is one of the, like, few of the ethical consideration that one has to take. The other one, if I got you clear, Bida, you say what are the challenges, right?
Yes, the ethical challenges related to ethics.
Yes. Other ethical challenges is that you can be easily manipulated and bribed. And you know, looking into that, into the point that Guy said earlier, motivation. You know, the country is really difficult, and economic is really hitting almost everyone in the country, whether you are working or not. Less paid. Maybe it could be only the big fish that could not feel the economic bomb. But ethical, you know, challenges that can arise currently as we are speaking, your neutrality can be taken away, because simply one would tell you, you know, you can have this amount of money to go and support your children. Seriously, you are in need of money, but you are also, you want to inform people. So that could be one of the challenges. Others that are not really, or the new users or the new practitioners can also easily be, you know, be like, this field is very difficult to be a fact checker. So if I get this opportunity, who will see? And it's only me, between me and him or her. So that can also jeopardize, and it can also be an ethical challenge in this time, and especially in South Sudan.
Yeah, thank you so much for the insights. Neutrality, impartiality are some of the ethics, and then some of the ethical challenges, issues to do with bribery. Yeah, I have heard of stories where actually I have even seen it through the die, because the story wants to be published, and then people say, you just have this money, let the story go. After all, and then the story just dies like that, and then you eat the money. Like this happens in Juba, I know. Thank you so much, Angelina. And who would like to go next?
Well, thank you, Angelina, for highlighting those points. You know,
Let me just come in. I deal.
Yes, Emma? You can go on, Guy.
Okay.
Go on, Guy, go on.
As you put it, Angelina, you know, there are a lot of things that need to be put in place, especially on the journalist side, or the investigative journalist, that is. One is adding to what you say. Journalists have to be accountable of everything that they do in the investigative process. That is, like, you cannot try investigate something and then later on you tend to be the victim because what you reported is inaccurate. So in the process, you need to be mindful. A journalist has to be mindful of the approaches he or she uses. And that is like getting the facts right. And if the story goes out, then there will be no like legal kind of, you'll not be sued legally. You know, there will be no libel on you because the things you are put in place are facts and they can be verified. So that's why it is important to put the facts as they are. I remember there was one story we did at Sawa Network, highlighting about the misappropriation of public funds in the NRA, with the then some NRA boss who was heading the NRA Customs division. So we ran the story at Sawa Network, and the story was implicating the officer about corruption in the process or in the public office. So that story was published, and then it happened that I was in the office. I was in the NRA office following up some other stuff. So I was called into the office by the office manager and started questioning me, like, you published something about this. Okay, he came to the boardroom where we were holding the press conference. It was like, who is a reporter here from Sawa Network? I was reluctant to show up, but then my colleagues were like, he's here. So he called me to the other room, to the other office. So we had a conversation there. It was like, do you know, like, you published a story. Are you sure all that you published or all that you said in that story is true? Can you verify the facts? Or do you have editorial framework that verifies the information that goes out? I was like, yes, we have a full editorial staff which ensures accuracy of information we publish. And it was like, are you sure what you published it is true? I responded, yes, because anything that is there, if there is any doubt about what you have done, we can be able to, we can even present the facts. We can present the facts in any legal institutions. So the guy was like, okay, fine. So the thing in that is, facts will always be facts. Even if you are trying to be intimidated, you have to present them later on, because that's where that's the strength of investigative journalism, of journalists, because you need to present facts as they are. You don't need to be like, oh, sorry, I did not know this. So facts will always be on your in your favor. They will come for your rescue when the case goes to legal institution. So thank you for that, and that's I wanted to add.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Lastly, Kay.
All right, thank you. I will also build from where Guy and Angelina have shared their experience. You see, there's nothing that you enjoy in investigative journalism than giving out the facts. And someone wanted you to apologize for facts that you have given. And that is one thing when you are in investigative journalism, you will stand your ground because you have got all the evidence to stand your ground. I would like to give you like the issue of bribery that Angelina has talked of is very crucial in fact-checking and in investigative journalism. When I was still working with the Juba Monitor, when Juba Stadium collapsed, I was the only person who published that story in Juba Monitor. And I can tell you that that year, Juba Monitor produced 2 rounds of copies. By the time it clocked 8 a.m. in the morning, 9, the first copy were all sold, just simply because of that story, Juba Stadium collapsed. By midday, we had already second sales of newspaper copies in the market. By 4, they were all over. So now here comes the scenario. When a press conference was called, of course, the byline was mine. When I reached, I was arrested. Where did I get this picture from? Who gave me this information? They wanted me to tell the person. I said, no. I sat at the nearby hotel and I saw when the stadium was collapsing, and that time was when I took the photos. Simply because, one, I want to protect my source, and I wanted to tell the public that there's a dubious work being done at the Juba Stadium. At that level, I was left. I don't know where the CEO of the company got my contract. He gave me a phone call, said I should go to his office. When I went, the guy gave me a brand envelope. You guessed what? The amount of money was huge. So now I was asking myself, should I kill this story or not? That was the question I had in myself. I said, no, I cannot kill this story because tomorrow my children will come and watch football in this stadium and they will be a victim. I hit the man again in the following morning with the story. I tell you, for the last 2 months, I was staying in Juba with that telephone. The guy would write to me on social media, Emmanuel, you are killing my business. I have companies, you end up dealing with me. I could not respond. So 2 stories, I killed this guy with his money he gave me. And that was the moment I didn't regret. Because I had this slogan during the referendum, they're saying when Bashir comes with the money, take the money and eat it and vote for referendum, vote for independence. So my ethics were not compromised with his money. I took the money, ate it, and I published the story with the angle that I wanted. So what happened? Things were put right at the stadium. So the issue of bribery, whether you're a journalist doing investigation or you're a fact checker, you will confront them. What you need to do as a journalist or a fact checker is stay within your conscience, stay within your principles. That way you will thrive in the field. And then ethical challenges, as one of it you talked of, many have been mentioned by my colleagues, but I want to make this in reference to fact checking. Timeliness in fact checking is very important. Their information, for example, somebody could post something on social media saying, like for example, saying Thomas Cirillo is approaching.
Okay, since Kay is a little bit some issues, I have an addition to the also ethical challenges that investigative journalists face. There is also these ethical challenges like sexual harassment. One can also ask you, like, for example, like, being an investigative journalist and a female is also another difficulty because they always find, like, having affairs with you, giving you some money. It's a way of, building more personal relationship more than your career or your profession. So these things are also there. It's only that I believe there are only few journalists who are investigators, and they are female in South Sudan. And also, even if we are many, only few are really trying to be in to practice, because there are a lot of this issue happening. You really, if you have to look into how they are trying to treat, female journalists, it's only courage that can really make you to do your job. So those are also professional or ethical challenges that are associated to being an investigative journalist or a fact checker in South Sudan.
Okay, brilliant insights. I really got a lot of interesting conversations, and we're just wrapping up this, and we're looking at the last bit of the sections. So one of the questions that I would throw to any of you, only one person can answer, is what do you think media development organizations, what is the role of the media development organizations like AMDI's Association for Media Development in South Sudan, the Media Authority, UNESCO, Defy Head Now, the National Press Club, the Female Journalist Network, all these media support organizations, what role do you think they can play in supporting your work? Just any of you can answer.
Let me comment, and my other colleague Angelina and Emmanuel can also add, maybe if there is something they think is also important to be worth mentioning. Well, the media development organizations such as AMDIS, Defy H Now, Media Authority of South Sudan, these organizations work in synchronization of ensuring that there is the quality of media reporting in South Sudan is to the point. That is considering the ethical practice of journalism, and also protection of journalists in the country. And also for an organization like Defy Hate Now works toward ensuring that there is aspect of gender is considered in mainstream media, as well as hate speech, because if such are tackled through the mainstream media, we tend to have a countrywide sensitization of what peaceful coexistence is, and working together as a country of the same people who have destiny. So and another thing that I would like also for these organizations to be maybe working on is establishing media relations with the government institutions, because right now we know South Sudan is the practice of journalism in South Sudan is really not doing well, because there is a lot of censorship. And if you look at that, it comes from other public institutions like the Anti-Corruption, South Sudan Anti-Corruption Commission. These institutions are not that independent, to support the practice of investigative journalism, to ensure that public senior public officials are held accountable, because if they are held accountable, there will be improvement of the services they deliver. So that is like they can work together with media, with the government, to ensure also there is access to information, because journalists face a lot of challenges in accessing information in South Sudan. They face intimidation, and thanks to this organization, they are trying their best in order to establish that atmosphere of ensuring access to information is granted to media practitioners in South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Guy. I know we already discussed this, but again, Angelina, okay, when you look at the landscape of investigative journalism and fact-checking, which we have talked about extensively since the beginning of this webinar, what do you think are some creative and innovative strategies that we can employ, that media entities, that media support organizations can employ or can consider in order to improve fact-checking and investigative journalism? What are some of the creative and innovative strategies that journalists, media organizations, and media support organizations can employ to improve fact-checking and investigative journalism? Any of you can answer, Kay or Angelina.
Okay.
You can switch to Angelina. You can switch to Angelina.
Conversion, I lost my network, but I can say what our guy has been telling us as far as the support from this organization is that, one, there's information that need to be fact-checked. Sometimes it is very difficult to find it on record, online. Meaning hello? Are you getting me? Hello, Bida?
We are getting you.
Emmanuel, we are getting you, yes, though breaking a bit.
What happened? I'm not getting anyone.
A network problem.
Maybe Angelina, you can speak if you have an answer to that question. Your microphone is off.
If you don't mind, can you rephrase it a bit for me?
Okay, so the question was, we have extensively discussed this issue of fact-checking and investigative journalism. So when you just brainstorm in a few seconds, what do you think are some creative and innovative strategies that we have not mentioned in the discussion that can be employed by you as individual journalists, by media organizations, by media support organizations, as well as some of the government entities to improve and investigative journalism in South Sudan?
Okay. I would encourage all the development media entities to be able to have a channel, let's say a channel that is protected and it is only meant for serious, reporting. Like, let's say anything that is affecting investigative journalists, a fact checker or an investigative journalist that are identified and trained to be fact checkers. Okay, already we have some WhatsApp groups and all this, but this WhatsApp group is combined with even only students. Some of them are not really professional journalists, but the information they get can help them as an individual. But coming into professionalism, if there could be that channel and ways of alerting if an investigative journalist is in trouble or is in need of something, such platform or forum can be created with inclusive of even the public offices, like their press, because normally they say they have a press secretary, and these are people, sometimes I wonder whether they are really having the background of journalism or not, because these are the very, very people that are supposed to be our entrance, like the press secretary for the public stakeholders. But when you come into reality, you will come and realize they are the very, very people that will even tend to prevent you from getting the actual facts. So with inclusive of such people from all the public stakeholders, I think it will also help them to get informed and to be able to understand really the importance of having of being a fact checker and being an investigative journalist. This could be another way of engaging them in the, like directly before going on ground and engage them, train them, the training that we went through, you know, because not all the press secretaries in all these big offices are they have the background of journalism. One, there are those that are just grabbed because you are my niece, you are my nephew, come and prevent my work, you see. So with the inclusive of such forum, it will also educate and promote the work of fact checking, and also it will at least add on the importance. They will understand why it is important to fact check and to investigate a story.
Thank you so much, Angelina. Thank you so much, Gaia Kedge, and thank you so much, K. Emmanuel, for your elaborations and insights. Very, very helpful. And this will go down in the memory lane for all of us who have been in attendance for this session. And right now, I will be going to give you guys a break. Take a few minutes to grab some glass of water while I read some of the comments in the chat box. I will be turning off your videos as well, as so that you can get some water and maybe take a little walk while I read your comments, and later you can come to answer any questions that they may have. Thank you so much, and let's meet in the Q&A session. You can go get some water, drink, and then we bounce back. So when we look at some of the questions,
how long is the break?
No, just let me give you 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we look at some of the questions, some of the comments in the chat box. I see Christopher Luate Obede is saying 7 elements of a sound investigation include carefully reviewing the allegations, and you preserve your evidence. You draft an investigation plan. You execute the investigation plan. You analyze evidence and reach a conclusion. You record your analysis and conclusion in a written investigative report, and then you update your case management system, and you as well as follow. And then I see Joseph Henry saying, I think the case of proposal writing, if we can have webinars or workshops on such topics, then we can be able to have more people applying and getting these grants to enhance their work. Yeah, very important comment, Emmanuel. But of course, like I said, there are a lot of YouTube videos out there about grant writing. There are also a lot of articles, and also there are a lot of sample proposals online. And I also mentioned the use of the AI chatbots. So when you give the AI chatbot correct prompts, they will be able to help you really write very good grants, and you can even win it. So it's just a matter of doing the right thing. Watch these YouTube tutorials, read some of these articles on proposal writing, see some of the budget templates for proposal, as well as some of the templates of proposal. You can even work with people who have ever written proposals, and they can be able to guide you if you find the online guidance very, very hard. And somebody is asking, what are some of the investigative tools that could be of aid? So you are the tool yourself. You are the investigative journalist, you are the tool, and there's no other better tool than you. And in what ways does investigation journalism contribute to the rule of law and justice? Of course, it holds people accountable. It promotes transparency and accountability and hence, when we have transparency and we have accountability, and then there's justice and there's the rule of law. And somebody saying, thanks, Emmanuel, responding very well. The question regarding support to media organizations, financial and technically, to set up protecting desks and their own media houses. My question as well is on legal support. Journalists who are threatened or attacked may need legal assistance to protect themselves and their work. Providing access to legal support can help them continue to do their work without fear or retribution. What do you think? Yes, this is very correct. And we already have partners like the Media Defense. So the Media Defense provides legal aid to investigative journalists as well as fact checkers. Even at the International Fact Check Network that we are a member of, they provide legal aid to journalists or fact checkers who are facing legal issues. So what happens is this legal aid is usually on case basis. So when a journalist has a case of a legal issue, then we'll help them
in putting forward a good application to the media defense as well as the National Fact-Checking Network, and they will be able to get the funds for this legal support. So there's definitely no worry about legal aid when it comes to fact-checking. And also on the issue of trained fact-checkers not using their learned skills to do their actual work. I think it mainly goes back to the issue of financial assistance, because without that, it's really going to be difficult. Joseph Henry. Yes, Joseph Henry, we have introduced the fact-check for a pay. So we are going to pay you for the skills that you have. So once you see any suspicious content online and you would like to fact-check, send us a message on WhatsApp. We will hear from you, and then we give you a pitch form that you fill, you comment on investigation. If your pitch is approved, and then you get paid after your article is published. This is because 201 Check cannot employ all people like their strengths, but then we will help motivate you in our own little way. And then we see how this works. If it doesn't work properly, we can redesign this. Another way is we usually have fellowships. So when we advertise the fellowship, you can always apply for the fellowship, and in this fellowship, you get paid. So these are ways that we try to reinforce learning from the people who have beneficiaries of our training program. And another comment is, I would love to know more about beat reporting in regards to investigating a story. Yeah, so earlier on, Kay Emmanuel introduced himself, and he talked about being somebody who is specialized in climate, human trafficking, and environmental issues. So usually when, for instance, in the case of proposals, these people who want proposals, they are very intentional. Maybe they want you to investigate an issue of climate change. Maybe they want to investigate corruption. Maybe they want to investigate financial crimes and stuff like that. So this is what we mean by beats, choosing a specific niche that you focus on. And somebody's asked, I guess one challenge that most investigators face is tip-offs, so as to lay off a very strong and informative story. And I'm sure a journalist will give in because of the low payments in their media house, correct? I think that's just a comment, it's not a question. The challenges facing the journalists include censorship, legal intimidation, lack of funding, and even violent physical attacks. Yes, all these insights were elaborated on by the panelists. And somebody is saying, thank you so much for the nice speaking. You're welcome, Gwenchol. And somebody is saying that, oh, this is just a sarcastic comment. Somebody is asking, what vital role can investigation play during election? Like we mentioned earlier, it promotes access to credible, accurate information, and this in turn improves a democratic process like elections. So those are some of the few comments that I have seen in the chat box. Thank you all guys for your comments, very, very helpful. We have 9 minutes left to close this session. So somebody is asking whether they could join the WhatsApp group link. I will share the link. And now it's time for questions. ICK, your hand is up. Would you like to say something before we pick the questions?
Yes.
Yes,
in regard to the last question you asked, what innovative ideas can media organizations and other supportive organizations do to promote fact-checking and investigative journalism? One I could say is like organization like 211 Check. I think if you can also introduce the aspect of awards to fact checkers, like you from January to December, January to January, you evaluate. Can we have awards for fact checkers? Which story do you think contributes a lot to the community in the course of the year? So it is these awards that will attract more fact checkers, and it will also improve their writing ability, because somebody will want to produce a fact check or information that is worth award consideration. So if you can introduce awards for fact checking, again, that will also add on in a fact checking. Organizations like UJOS, organizations like AMDIS, UNESCO, if they can also come in support of UJOS, like they give, it's not only fact checker or investigative journalism that deserve an awards, but this is very important. I'm seeing in other countries that yearly there is a call for story submission to be considered for awards. So if South Sudan, UJOS, or other media organization can also take this, I think it will move greatly in improving the content. Okay, it will improve the quality of reporting by journalists, not fact checkers alone, or any investigative journalism. So it should be cross-cutting in all the bits that is worth reporting by media organizations. That was what I wanted to ask to answer to add on previously.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kay, for that. I think the awards point is very important. But then, you know, one thing why we didn't consider awards is because there are no other fact-checking entities. And also, as you know, the mainstream media is not taking the fact-checking culture, something very serious. I've been always using an example of even international media, even the AFP, it has a fact-checking desk. That is, it has a dedicated domain on its website, factcheck.afp.com, the BBC, and other international media houses, they have fact-checking. So this is a culture that should be adopted. But then I think with this new initiative that we're introducing, we'll be able to have that fact-checking award by the end of the period, by the end of the pilot phase. And thank you so much for that. So guys, we are now taking questions. If you have any questions, apart from the ones put in the chat box, you can raise your hand and then you can direct your question to any of the three panelists. And then we close the session in 6 minutes. Otherwise, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. And yes, Arcangelo David, I see your hand is up. What is your question?
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate your discussion, and I'm so glad that I've learned a lot from those guys. Actually, I just want to go back to those of Angelina and then Emmanuel. They talk about the support that media is supposed, like the journalist supposed to get. You know, nowadays you just find someone who is doing agriculture or business administration. You find him is already in that job. Maybe he's just motivated because the little money that he's getting out of it. And most of those people who are like the journalists themselves, you find them, they move on, they went to do some other works. I just need like to ask them what are the message that they can be given to those guys so that they can return back to their professionals. And then second thing is about Kay mentioned about the blue ticks. Now, most of our people around, when they see your page, like for organization, they see your page is having a blue tick, then they say, yes, this is where I can get a really source of information. I need him like to elaborate more about this issue of blue ticks to me. And the lastly is to Guy about the social media. And then nowadays you see like I got information on social media. Angelina has already mentioned one of the example, like I'm in WOW and I got information from Juba, like a certain woman killed their children, but I'm not sure of this information. How can I verify those information, for example? Thank you.
Okay, great. So guys, would you like to answer first or you want to us to check the questions?
Any
Can I answer?
Okay, Angelina, you can answer.
Yeah, I can answer the first question that is asking about there are those citizen journalists, because there is professional journalists and citizen journalists. Being a citizen journalist, being a citizen journalist, we are all citizen journalists because we have access to all the social media that are being, that are being used to inform people. So all of us, we have access to our smartphones, to our computers, to everything. Coming to the non-professional journalists that are now practicing journalism in a way that, as I gave you an example earlier, one can be a broadcast journalist, or one can be just by title because he or she is working in a media entity or in a radio station. But when it comes to being professional, they are not trained, they are not qualified, they did not study really the journalism. As I said earlier, these are people, if they got the opportunity at that time, there is what we call on-job training and learning while on job. It could be at that time, many journalists or journalists were having, no, not journalists. Let's say many of the citizens by then in South Sudan, because they always say journalism is very critical field and it is very dangerous to study. So many ran to do human resource, many ran to do finance, accountants, and all this. It could be they got that opportunity because majority have grown now being a journalist and being senior journalist in that way because they learn on job training. In journalism, you don't chase people as long as they learn and they implement the skills and the ethical way of doing their job. As long as they're in a media entity that is really following the ethics of the journalism, such people, let them continue because they are getting a little bit bread out of that job. But the important part is if there is still such people who are being employed but they are not professional journalists, maybe they are farmers, agriculturists, agronomists, they are all in the same actually category, but currently they are practicing journalism or they are doing things that a professional journalist could do in a media entity. As long as they follow, the ethics and everything that is concerned of a professional journalist, let them continue. We cannot chase them away because that could be the source of their bread. But if at all they feel like, enough is enough, they are also free to go and follow their career path. You also ask that there are also professional journalists that they are not doing their job. Maybe they quit and now they are doing, like, some of them are a secretary, some of them are human resource assistant somewhere. Yes, an example of me, like I told you, I was since 2013-14, I was more of a frontline. I normally go follow up, trying to get information since the broke up of the war at a media entity I was working for. But it reached a point in 2014 when I was detained in Rumbek with a story that it was rumorsly said that it's me who did it on a Atreya. It has to, when I was talking to the first vice president Riak on Atreya, it had to cost me a lot of problem. So as I was traveling from Unity State, I was trying to come to Juba. I was detained in Rumbek in a cell whereby I was not, my basic needs were not even, considered. I was jailed with some men inside. Luckily enough, I was the only female with 2 male. So I was able to negotiate and it was really a very terrible issue for me. From that time, luckily enough, I made use of the same institution because I had a small security alarm that looks like a microphone. I managed it to hide it in my bra. So with the use of that, I managed to inform my institution and they rescued me. So from that time, as a professional journalist, I did not want to go back to be a frontline journalist. I decided to sit down and maybe do more of communication and administrative communication and all this in international organization. Not until 3 years later is when I decided, okay, let me try back and do my job. So it depends on where you feel your safety is. The good thing with me, I did not quit completely communication. I was still in the
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Angelina. And our time is already up, so I'm going to give a last words to Kay and Guy, and then we close the session. Any other questions can be asked in the WhatsApp group, and we continue the discussion in the WhatsApp group. So over to you, Guy. You can give your final words, and then over to you also, Kay. You can give your final words, and then we close. So if you have not registered your attendance, I just dropped the link to the attendance in the chat box. Please do register your attendance as we close the session. Yes, Guy, you can put your final words.
All right. Thank you, Bidai, and all the participants. Well, just to touch briefly on the question Arcangelo asked about a scenario that has happened, maybe like a mother died and children, maybe a serious situation. So that is actually a very good question because it talks about how should you verify information on social media platforms, any information that you come across, how should you be verified? So as a fact checker, what you need to do is you need to keep contact with the authorities in that particular location. You need to, the first thing that, or the first authority that should be in your mind is the police, because such issues are handled by the police in such locations, or maybe in anywhere as stipulated by the constitution. So also you need to contact the community leadership, that is like the Sultan, try establish and verify, has that really happened in that mentioned location? Is it real or it is not? And through my experience as a fact checker, I've encountered or I've interacted with authorities, like even the ministers, even the army generals. One thing about these people, these authorities, they are more open to talk to you when you're trying to get information like this, an allegation mentioned like this and this and this. Is it true? In most cases, and through my experience, they have been willing to give information surrounding such phenomenon. So as a fact checker, you need to be free to contact these individuals, the authorities, including the police, the community leaders, or even journalists in such locations. Try confirm from them, has this actually happened or not? Because journalists normally have a lot of contacts. They have a lot of contact on ground. And in such instances, you can also even try ask and get information, like the contact information about an individual you really want to contact in that particular location, or who is actually involved, or maybe who is authoritative in such situations. So always keep that in mind, to have always a verification mechanism or maybe step you are going to take when you are trying to get real or facts in regard to what is trending on social media. So that is it, and thank you, and I appreciate everyone who has attended. This is actually a very good step toward fighting misinformation in South Sudan. And step by step, our hands are going to be, to be held across South Sudan, because those who are trained, they are always skeptical of any information that come across, like that come through, like they come across it, and it's always our wish that be an ambassador to ensure that we try to bring on board other people who have not attended this forum, try impact them positively, to be skeptical of any information that they come across, to mitigate other impacts of misinformation in South Sudan. Thank you, and let's meet another time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Guy Akech, for your insights. Very, very important. And I have learned a lot from the points that you've raised throughout this discussion. And I'm sure it's also going to shape the way I do my work and my perspectives towards investigative journalism and fact-checking in South Sudan. Once again, thank you so much. And lastly, Kay, your final words.
Thank you, Bida, for this opportunity. I think most of the questions have been answered by Guy and Jelena. I will just go straight away to my call of action. I would like my fellow journalists to embrace fact-checking and other opportunities that can build up your career as well. Like these days, if you are looking for opportunities, you should be a multimedia journalist. And if you cannot practice multimedia journalism, then it's going to be a challenge for you. What does it mean? You should be able to carry fact-checking. You should be able to work for broadcast. You should be able to work for online. So if you cannot multitask, I think you are going to miss some other opportunities. Secondly, to media organization, the issue of establishing a fact check is very, very, very important. Amidst the little resources that the media organizations have, let them embrace fact-checking desk. I just wanted to give a brief example here. I remember there was a story run by Citizen, not Citizen, but City Review, about purchase of cars for government ministries in the Western Equatorial State. There was debate on the amount of money, figures. You can, like, for example, if there was a fact-checking desk with the City Review, I think that kind of misrepresentation in the publication would have been avoided. So can media organizations embrace fact-checking desks and employ staffs who can handle such? My call of action to government, institution, and university is that let's try as a government, there should be a deliberate attempt to review our curriculum such that we also, those students who are interested in studying journalism, they graduate from the universities with the fact-checking skills. I'm glad check is trying to build the capacity of this or MDI Immediate Development Institute. At least hello, Bida. Are you getting me?
The network is breaking. I don't know. Maybe
I'm getting you. I'm getting you.
You can proceed, please, Kay. You can proceed.
In summary,
thank you so much.
In summary, what I was saying, institutions like Media Development Institute, universities like Stanford University, Juba University, and others in South Sudan, let them embrace, or let them review their curriculum such that fact-checking become part and parcel of their course for students who are pursuing journalism or mass communication. And once these students graduate, whether they're working in a private sector, whether they're working in a print, they should be able to debunk fake news that comes particularly to the institution. But if this is not done, I think, and if it is left for the media organizations alone, it is not enough. We cannot fight misinformation. Given the fact that this bit of fact-checking is still something that is new, there are very few professionals. So starting it at the university level will help a lot. Those are some of my call for action as far as this discussion for today is concerned. I really thank you so much for the opportunity you have given me to share my experience as far as fact-checking and investigative journalism is concerned. Over to you.
Beautiful, beautiful, and beautiful. Thank you so much, Kay Emmanuel. Very